Hello, this is Art for Introvert, and today we are going to discuss why we are so fascinated by stories about maniacs, serial killers, and cannibals. Let's face it, we love watching the actions of maniacs in Seven, True Detective, and Mindhunter. Not to mention the Call of the Silence of the Lambs with the magnificent Anthony Hopkins, or the TV series Hannibal with the main character played by Mads Mikkelsen. In this video, we will analyze why maniacs have become some of the most attractive pop culture characters, and we'll talk of our inner desires that they manifest. Let's start with a simple question. What is art? It's an opportunity to experience something unique that might not be available to us in everyday life. And meeting with a maniac is just one of such experiences. Watching closely the actions of Hannibal Lecter, we peer into the prohibited and unknown, we feel the adrenaline, fear, and awe. At the same time, when looking at all the atrocities the maniacs are doing, and knowing that we ourselves are safe. In many ways, it is our safety that makes us feel sympathy for such, let's be honest, disgusting characters. If it wasn't for the screen dividing you, you wouldn't want to be in the same room with them. And that's why horror movies are so popular. They play on our inner desire to catch a glimpse of the forbidden, on the fascination of voyeurism. Through the stories of maniacs, we touch something that society usually hides from us. Unlike the reality, directors of the movies and TV series relish all the disgusting details and savor the abnormalities. And we get some primal satisfaction from watching all these atrocities. Let's be frank, it's hard for us to admit that we have sympathy for maniacs. To admit that there is something or someone inside us who enjoys watching the most perverted thoughts and actions of such characters. That some part of us craves the dark side of life. The Austrian psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud's later work reflects his desire for destruction within every human. He called it the death drive. He distinguished two main forces that guide our actions. Eros and Thanatos, the attraction to life and the attraction to death, respectively. There are times when we are inwardly driven to violence, and this fact terrifies us. Carl Gustav Jung, a Swiss psychoanalyst and Freud student, said that inside every person there is a dark aspect of the personality called the shadow. It comprises all the thoughts that we keep out of our consciousness. For example, the desire for violence, cruelty, immoral thoughts, or unacceptable sexual fantasies. By watching the movies and series about maniacs, we give free rein to our inner craving for violence and cruelty. It's a kind of a purification for us, an attempt to release all the dark energy that lurks deep inside. What is more, cinema often portrays maniacs in quite an appealing way. Probably the first character that comes to mind is Hannibal Lecter. Who is he? Descended from a family of aristocrats, he is an intellectual with an excellent knowledge of classical culture and an aesthete on top of that. He plays musical instruments, paints, knows wine, and of course, he's an excellent cook. He creates an image of the classic European intellectual of the 19th century whose vivid examples can be found in the decadence art. There are similar examples in literature. Remember Oscar Wilde and his lifestyle, for instance, and the fact that he was one of the main aesthetes of the 19th century. In Hannibal, the viewers encounter a sexy, intelligent, and charismatic man, diabolically magnetic. You can't but feel drawn to him, even when you know he is a killer. At the same time, we must remember that the image of Hannibal is artificial, even if the creator of the series used the prototypes of real people. The moon maniac Albert Hamilton Fish and the serial killer Robert Maudsley. Of course, in real life, they were not as extraordinary as Hannibal from the series. And it's this mixture of sexuality, strength, creativity, and aesthetics that makes us love the image of Hannibal Lecter so much. We are fascinated by his unique personality. After all, Hannibal is an artist of a kind. He seems to be a person with an unusual life position that distinguishes him from the mass. Even if this uniqueness is vicious at its core. We see the same in the house that Jack built, directed by Lars von Trier. The main character sees murder as an art form. Only in this movie, the image of a maniac is devoid of romantic flair. It's shown in its brutal reality and absurdity. The point is, maniacs act according to their own system of values, where ethics turns into aesthetics. What is ethics? It's the general values and rules of behavior inherent to human society. And what is aesthetics? A creator's point of view. A maniac in this case is the creator, the author who steps over all social prohibitions for the sake of his art. Hannibal uses his talent to justify violence through aesthetics, and we, as the audience, find ourselves enjoying what we see on a screen. After all, his art really is presented in a beautiful manner. We live in a world of established rules and regulations. As for the Maniacs, they disregard these rules. In our eyes, they are counterculture characters who embody the modern man's revolt against the system. Maniacs do things that are explicitly prohibited by society. Because of this, on a subconscious level, we sympathize with them. The tricky thing here is that clearly a Maniac's methods to revolt against the norms go beyond all limits. We live in the 21st century, but that doesn't change who we are. From the primitive world and down to the present day, there is a drive for violence that is a part of human nature. So by watching the actions of Hannibal Lecter or following similar dark stories, we indulge in such secret thoughts to let them go in the end. We love stories about maniacs because they allow us to look inside ourselves. They allow us to peer into the world of death and violence. But do not forget that the romantic image of Hannibal will dissolve as soon as you find yourself next to him in real life. Life is much more prosaic, and the irony is the artificial image of Hannibal, a classic European intellectual, sexy and well-read, only evokes our sympathy when we see him on the screen.